Yeah, they call the Gem Theater the showplace of Kannapolis. It was this old mill town's first movie theater, and today, well, it's still a local landmark that takes you back to the good old days. There aren't many old theaters left from the 1930s that are still showing movies today.
It's home sweet home to me, keep singing Mr. Bluebird.
But at the Gem Theater, where fans used to line up for blocks at the box office to see Roy Rogers on the screen, well, every night it's still lights.
There is a set of dimmers just like this up in the projection booth.
Camera, action.
We have the stage curtains that open and close before the movie. We have the footlights that brighten and dim, and is a little more theatrical. They walk into the auditorium, and usually it's wow. Gem Theater president and manager Steve Morris says what also wows first-timers at the Gem is this bird's eye view they get from the movie theater balcony. Reminds me of the theater that I went to when I was growing up. For others, it's the marquee out front that brings back the memories. Or here in the lobby, maybe the best movie popcorn anywhere. And for long-timers at the Gem, well, every film is sort of a flashback to their younger days. Right down to the familiar sound of their favorite old seat. That the seat creaked when she sat down, and that was the sound that she loved to hear because she knew what was to follow. We hear the same stories. This is where they had their first job. This is where they came on their first date before they got married. And this is where they brought their child to see their first movie. We're talking with Morris 80 years to the day after a fire destroyed much of the Gem. Backstage, you can see the old metal ladder that's still warped from the heat of those flames. But remarkably, this old brick behind the curtain survived the blaze. So did the Art Deco front facade with that iconic Gem marquee. And here's the old projection room, also preserved with one of its two original cameras. In the very early days, they would show reel 1 on one projector, reel 2 on the other, and go back and forth. Now the Gem's old projector is side by side with a new digital projector. Otherwise, though, this 1936 theater itself looks pretty much like it did when it was rebuilt and reopened after that old fire. Well, you know, you see the details in the ceiling, you see the plaster work, you see the birds on either side, which of course people comment about a lot. Those were produced here in Kannapolis. They were carved by artisans that worked for Cannon Mills. Cannon Mills built 3 other theaters in Kannapolis too, including the old Swanee Theater just around the corner. Today, the Swanee building is still there, but it's not a movie house anymore. Nope. The Gem Theater is the only one that's still open, and now it's finally on the National Register of Historic Places. It is a significant recognition of the importance that this building has in the memories of people in Kannapolis and Cabarrus and Rowan counties. You know, there are thousands and thousands of people that have grown up coming to the movies here. That Gem history is also captured in 1,700 snapshots that the Gem Theater is now sharing with us from their early days as a so-called picture palace. 85 years of bringing Hollywood glitz and glamour to blue-collar Kannapolis. Not just the movies, but live traveling shows too. And today's Gem Theater isn't just for movies either. Check out the Gem's red carpet crowd here at the North Carolina Music Hall of Fame induction ceremony.
Ladies and gentlemen, the legendary Briar Hoppers.
Including current members of the original bluegrass band that's actually older than the theater is. Yep, the Briarhoppers first played on the radio in 1934, 2 years before the Gem opened its doors. And now, North Carolina music history meets North Carolina theater history.
How is everybody doing tonight?
The Hall of Fame audience settling into those same creaky Gem Theater seats as the Hall of Fame band warms up backstage, those still standing old brick walls in the background. Until finally it's time for the show, with the best view here at the Gem, and where else, from the balcony.
We keep making those memories. I mean, this is the location where it doesn't matter where you grew up, doesn't matter where you're from, and then to have those performers on the stage and get to hear that live music that we normally don't have here is really a treat.
Yeah, that Hall of Fame night was something special, but so are all the decades of date nights and family matinees here at the Gem, where the more things change, the more they stay the same.
We hope you enjoyed the story. If you don't want to miss any more great stories about the Charlotte region, please subscribe to our YouTube channel.